Are you thinking about building a new home? Well, you might want to hit pause for a minute because right now the industry is facing some new challenges that could cost you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. I'm Realtor Nick Belmore, and whether you're a buyer, an investor, or just curious about what's going on, we are going to break down some of the changes that are affecting the new construction industry at this very moment. Stick around, and if you find this video helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe and that like button, and I'll be able to bring you more information about what's happening in the real estate world. Challenge number one, when we focus on these three challenges today, is without a doubt supply chain and material cost. You know, this has been something that has affected the industry severely at certain times in the past few years, and right now absolutely could be one of those times, with demand really being at a high level and supply constantly being an issue, along with some of the international tariffs. It could have a dramatic effect on lumber. And so one of the things that we're starting to see out there is making sure that the supplies are going to be lined up and ready for your new home is definitely a challenge that many builders are facing today in this type of market. The solution is a lot of builders are stockpiling materials and buying in bulk at this phase so that they won't be as affected by the changes in pricing and some of the limited supply chain issues that we're seeing in certain parts of the industry. Challenge number two, and this is absolutely one that we faced for a little while now, and that's a labor shortage. I'm not talking about general labor, because the reality is general labor has always been in a fair supply throughout the time in our market. Right now, what I'm really talking about is skilled labor. Electricians, plumbers, frame carpenters, high quality roofers, and of course excavators and flatwork people are more busy than they have been in quite some time. Whether it's new construction or whether it's used homes, there's quite a bit of demand out there for a lot of these different trades. And we know that in the mid-2000s, when the industry really faced a lot of challenges from that real estate recession, that in our area ran from 2006 all the way to about 2013, a lot of those guys went out of business and they didn't always come back. A lot of those skilled trades found different industries that were more solid, less market dependent, and started to build careers there. And that left us with a shortage of apprentice and journeyman tradesmen. And so without a doubt, we faced that when the home demand was at its peak, and we still continue to face it today. If you're looking for an opportunity to quite honestly build an amazing business, this is a place that's completely underserved, and we absolutely don't have enough skilled trades. As we look at solutions, one of the things that I see gearing up, especially here in Grand Rapids, we have more trade schools than we've ever seen. And a lot of them are recruiting young people right out of high school, teaching heating and cooling, air conditioning, ventilation, that whole entire thing. HVAC, definitely a big growing industry here in the area. Framing, another one where you're starting to see schools pop up. Electricians is another one where you're starting to see more and more educational opportunities out there. And of course, one of the fastest growing industries is concrete construction, whether it is the basics of a foundation and a driveway, or a lot of the commercial applications where we're looking at structural concrete and some of the more advanced techniques. This is an industry that keeps growing and has higher and higher and higher demand as we go forward. So seeing that these trade schools are popping up all around the area and offering education in these subjects is really a positive thing as we start to deal with this problem in the industry. Number three, and without a doubt, one of the biggest ones in my book is interest rates and affordability. No doubt with our interest rates being at and around a 10-year high, that's having some of the biggest impact. The second thing we're seeing is not just in new construction, but throughout the real estate industry, affordability is a huge issue. Right now, as it stands, you have to make right around $100,000 to be able to afford a 3 $300,000 home. And of course, one of the things that we're seeing is a good chunk of our new construction in the area starts in the low fours. And of course, after you start picking those features, after you start customizing the house, a lot of these homes go from the low fours to the low fives very quickly. That absolutely is part of the affordability issue. So a couple of things that we're looking at when it comes to affordability, obviously one of them is scale, right? It's just simply building more houses to meet the demand and have that supply, especially what we would consider a lot of the starter homes, probably some of our most undersupplied housing that we have out here in the market in West Michigan. The other one, of course, is interest rates. Now, this one's a tougher one. We've seen some movement in the past few weeks on interest rates, and thankfully, movement in the right direction. However, a lot of interest rates today are still in the low sixes, and we ran a long period of time where we got used to the norm of interest rates being in the threes and fours. So in comparison, there's still just a lot more pressure on affordability because of the cost of financing. One of the other things that happened, and it's definitely affecting affordability too, that's the fact that we had such a run up during the COVID years. Oftentimes here in West Michigan, pushing 14 to 16% in yearly appreciation. That's doubling the pace of the normal appreciation that we've seen throughout the history here in West Michigan. And of course, that is another thing that is really adding to the affordability issue. So making sure that you're going to have something that's in budget is a giant concern for a lot of buyers. Solution-wise on this one, the biggest thing we're seeing in new construction is interest rate buy downs from the builders. Now, let's be honest about this. Where does the builder get the money to buy your interest rate down so you have a cheaper monthly payment? The reality is that money comes from the profit of you buying that new construction home. So in the end, it's coming from you at this phase. However, the reality is this. Today, they are absolutely, and more of our builders here, I would say a good 50% are offering some form of incentive when it comes to interest rate buy down. What's the other thing that we're seeing? We're seeing a lot of our builders here simplifying the product that they're building. Instead of putting casing and sills on all the windows, a lot of builders are opting to do what we call a drywall jam, where it's just simply drywall that meets up with the window for just a clean corner that is done with corner bead and taping. The other thing we're seeing, less and smaller cabinets in some of the kitchens, and we're oftentimes seeing less expensive flooring products in some of these houses in order to bring down the overall pricing. Even some of the builders that I've dealt with have moved from 2x6 exterior walls into 2x4 exterior walls. Obviously, the thought behind it is saving money on the pricing of the walls, from the insulation to the wood that they're using. However, one of the big things that you give up is your R factor when you go to a thinner wall, meaning that your cost to actually heat that home could increase because your home is just not as efficient in holding the heat in with those thinner walls. So no question that there are some solutions. In my opinion, none of them are really that great, and affordability does continue to be an issue throughout the entirety of our market here in West Michigan. From supply chain to rising costs, these continue to be some of the challenges that we faced here in West Michigan. However, we still were able to see home prices go up over the last year, as we've seen one of the tougher markets in the last 5. And so that does tell you that there is still a lot of pluses to buying a new home. And if you are thinking about starting your journey, whether it's new construction or a residential resale home, reach out to me. My information is in the description below, and I would absolutely love to help guide you on what may be some of the best choices in today's market for your family to make sure that you get a home that fits your needs at a price that makes sense for your budget.